This video covers the creation of world maps and locations, and the association of locations with specific scenes. World maps and locations allow you to visualize the world where your story takes place. This makes it easier to ensure that the settings you describe for your scenes are consistent and believable. It also makes it easier to conceptualize how much time is required to move from one location to another, or how the weather might differ between locations. Locations and world maps are created within projects, but are not tied only to that project and can be shared between different projects. Opening a project and expanding the Assets view, you will see a list of location and world map selections. If you have created locations and world maps in other projects, you will see them listed here in the section labeled Not Associated with Project. You can then associate them with this project if you want to use them again. Locations and world maps that you create in this project will automatically be associated with it, and they will be available to associate with other projects. Location and world map creation is possible in two different contexts: the project world maps and locations context and the manuscript planning context. This flexibility allows users to create locations and world maps before they have started planning their story structure or while planning the story structure. There are three notable differences between the project world maps and locations context and the manuscript planning context. Firstly, the project world maps and locations context will only display the location information, while the planning context will show scene information overlaid onto the map based on the currently active scene. Secondly, the planning context makes the manuscript traversal tools available, where the user can traverse the story plot scene by scene according to the selected scene order. And lastly, locations created in the planning context will automatically be associated with the setting of the active scene, while locations created in the project world maps and locations context will not automatically be associated with any scenes. Let's take a look at locations and world maps in the different contexts. This is the project locations and world maps context. In Novel Goggles, locations are tied to a specific world map. Locations will only be visible on the map when their associated world map is the active one. Changing the active world map using the selection dialog will change the active world map and render all locations already associated with the selected world map. Locations are indicated by a small blue rectangle, with an overlay showing the location title next to it. Locations can be moved if you click and hold the left mouse button while hovered over a location rectangle and then drag the mouse. Release the button to set the new position. New locations will automatically be associated with the active world map at the time of creation. Locations can be moved to different world maps by changing the world map selection in their location details pop-up. To see the location details pop-up for a specific location, select the location using one of the following methods. Click the relevant tab at the top of the view. Or, scroll to the relevant tab using the mouse wheel while hovered over the tabs. Or, click the relevant rectangle in the world map. Once the pop-up is visible, change the world map selection. Changing the active location will also change the active world map if the currently active world map is not the one associated with the location that was just selected. World maps and locations can be used in various ways. Some examples include different world maps for different planets, different world maps for the same region at different times in its history, world maps for a global view with locations representing cities, and then other world maps with more detail for each city, with locations representing street addresses. Let's take a quick look at creating and editing world maps. There is a default world map called the Void, which cannot be removed. Any locations not associated with a valid world map will be rendered here. World maps can be created in two areas. By default, the world maps list is not shown and a dialog for New World Map title is visible to the left, next to the Create World Map button. Enter a title here and click the button to create a new world map. New world maps will initially render the default world map image, which is a rough drawing of the Cape Town area. To change the image, click the Show World Maps List button. Click Edit World Map for the world map that you just created. In the World Map Details pop-up, click Choose Image. Choose a new image for the world map from your computer. While the world map details pop-up is visible, note also the recycle icon to the top right of the view. Many assets and novel goggles can be recycled if you no longer want to use them but do not want to permanently delete them just yet. The small solid bin icon represents the recycle command. To recycle an asset, left-click and hold the mouse button down on this icon. The icon will not immediately trigger the recycle operation. Note that the icon fills with red from the left to indicate that a recycle operation is imminent. The recycle operation should trigger after 2 seconds. Once the recycle operation is triggered, the asset recycle flag will be set and that asset will no longer show up in normal views. All asset data and links are however untouched. To restore the asset or to permanently delete it, you will have to go to the asset management context, discussed later in the video. When the World Maps list is expanded, a dialog for New World Map title and New World Map description are also available, alongside the Create World Map button, allowing you to create world maps. World maps can be dragged by holding down the mouse button in an unpopulated area of the rendering canvas and dragging the mouse. Locations, rectangles, and title overlays will translate with the map. World maps can be zoomed using the mouse scroll wheel. Let's take a quick look at creating and editing locations. Locations can be created in 2 ways. The first way is to double-click anywhere in the map. A new location will be created at the mouse cursor when you do this. This location will have the default name unnamed location and it will be associated with the currently active world map. The second way is to click the Create Location button towards the top right of the view. When using this method, a location will be created at a default point on the map. If you have zoomed or moved the map, the new location may appear off-screen initially. Simply zoom or translate the map to find the location and then click and drag it to where you want it to be. Locations can be edited when they are the active location. The active location details should be visible in a pop-up, allowing you to change the description of the location appearance, location image, title, summary, and associated world map. The location details pop-up allows you to center the active location on the screen by clicking the target icon. The location details pop-up also allows you to recycle a location using the recycle button to the top right. The recycle operation for locations works the same way as it does for world maps as discussed earlier in the video. Now, let's take a look at world maps and locations in the planning context. This is the planning context. In this context, you can associate locations with specific scenes. If a scene takes place at a specific location, select that location from the selection drop-down in the Scene Settings area. Making this association unlocks a few additional features. Firstly, it makes it possible to display scene information for the active scene in an overlay on the map. If we switch to the scene-specific location data view, you will notice that the active location has additional information overlaid beneath the location title. The active location will change to reflect the location where the active scene takes place when the active scene is changed. Secondly, an additional field is available in the location details pop-up for each scene. This is the Scene Notes field, and you can make notes about the location for every scene that takes place there. Thirdly, it makes it possible to use the scene traversal tools to traverse the manuscript by scenes that feature a specific location. To do this, select the Location Traversal option. This will make an additional selection available where you can select the specific location that you want to follow. Select a location and then select the scene order. You can traverse scenes that feature the selected location either by structure order or by chronological order. Structure order will traverse the scenes according to the order that they appear in the manuscript. Chronological order will traverse the scenes according to the date set in the scene setting. Once you have made your traversal selections, use the Previous Scene and Next Scene buttons to traverse the manuscript. Note that the same traversal options are available in the writing view. Creating locations and world maps in the scene-specific location data view of the planning context works in much the same way as shown for the project world maps and locations context. There is only one minor difference. Locations created here will automatically be associated with the active scene at the time of creation. Let's change to the writing context for an overview of how world maps and locations feature there. This is the writing context. In this context, location details for the active scene will be shown in the location details view to the right of the manuscript. If the scene does not have a location set, you can change that in the scene details view to the left of the manuscript by selecting a location for the selection drop-down in the settings section. You can edit location details in the view on the right, similarly to how you edit the details in the project world maps and locations or planning contexts. Note that the Scene Notes field is available here as well. You can use the traversal tools here, similarly to how they are used in the planning context. You cannot recycle the location here or view the location on the world map in this context at this time. To access these features, you will have to change to either the planning context or the project world maps and locations context. Finally, let's take a look at asset management for world maps and locations. This is the Manage Assets context of Novel Goggles. This context allows you to manage all assets associated with your account, including downloading asset backups for individual assets, restoring recycled assets and deleting assets permanently. Notice that world maps and locations are grouped under their own asset classes. You can filter by asset title or show certain asset classes only using the inputs at the top of the view. Location Asset Management. Recycled locations. Any locations that have been recycled will be highlighted in orange. To manage a specific location, click on the ellipses button for that location. This is the Location Asset Management view. Here you can view a text-only representation of the asset data and its links to other assets. Locations that have the recycled flag set will have a button to restore the location, which will simply unset the recycled flag and make the location available in normal views again. Clicking the download icon will download a backup file representing this asset. To delete a location permanently, click and hold on the bin icon with the X on it. This button works similarly to the Asset Recycle button and will not immediately trigger a delete operation. Instead, the button will start to fill with red from the left until the delete operation is triggered after 2 seconds. Delete operations are permanent, so be sure that you no longer require the asset before deleting it. World Map Asset Management. Similarly to Location Asset Management, world maps that have been recycled will be highlighted in orange. To manage a specific world map, click on the ellipses button for that world map. This is the World Map Asset Management view. Here you can view a text-only representation of the asset data and its links to other assets. World maps that have the recycled flag set will have a button to restore the world map, which will simply unset the recycled flag and make the world map available in normal views again. Clicking the download icon will download a backup file representing this asset. To delete a world map permanently, click and hold on the bin icon with the X on it. This button works similarly to the Asset Recycle button and will not immediately trigger a delete operation. Instead, the button will start to fill with red from the left until the delete operation is triggered after 2 seconds. Delete operations are permanent, so be sure that you no longer require the asset before deleting it. That is all for this video. To learn about other Novel Goggles features, see the other videos available on our YouTube channel.